Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Short Fiction and Let's Talk H.P. Lovecraft. Before we get started, just a little bit of business to get out of the way. First up, just a reminder that I've been working out of town. This big job I'm on should go on for another 2 or 3 months. So until that time ends, my daily uploading thing is going to be significantly hindered. But look for me to try and get something out to you at least once a week during that time. But once I get back where I'm working in town, things should pick up again. Second of all, in the business for this morning, we are up to 497 subscribers. So we are just 3 away from that goal of ours of hitting 500 before the end of the year. So if you're out there watching and you have not subscribed yet, please do now and help us reach that goal. This is also going to be our 1600th video overall. So yeah, it's hard to believe that we've put out 1600 videos in the last 2.5, 3 years. Incredible. And actually over 600 of them were this year alone. And then finally, I've added to my collection, finally, the complete H.P. Lovecraft. I'd previously been working from this collection of, selected stories, but now I have the entire H.P. Lovecraft collection of 53 short stories, 4 novellas, and 1 novel. And I do plan to review them all here for you in the Let's Talk H.P. Lovecraft. So, for today's story review, I'm looking at Cool Air, of course by H.P. Lovecraft, published in March of 1928 in the Tales of Magic and Mystery magazine. It was originally rejected by Weird Tales. It has been adapted numerous times for film, television, and comic books. So if you are looking for other ways to enjoy this story, they are certainly out there. Synopsis. So we meet the narrator, who tells us that he is sort of petrified by sudden draughts of cold air. And you know, it's sort of a weird reaction, but you know, most people think of the dark being scary and of noises being scary, but sometimes that little burst of unexpected cold air can make the hairs stand up on the backs of your arms. And he's going to tell us why. He moves to New York because of a job, and he doesn't have much money. And he moves into an 1840s style New York brownstone, sort of the classic New York structure. It's owned by a Spanish lady, and he has a neighbor upstairs named Dr. Munoz. One night, something leaks through the ceiling of our narrator's room, from Dr. Munoz's room, and it apparently is ammonia. So he goes up, he meets Dr. Munoz, and after the landlady's forbids her son from continuing to run errands for Dr. Munoz, our narrator becomes like a fast friend with him and begins to run errands for him and do certain things for him. And also he's interested in the man's lifestyle. He's he appears to be a man of breeding, an intelligent person, but he's living in this shithole with him. So it appeals to him. The doctor appears to be in frail health. He says he picked up an illness 18 years ago, and since then he's part of the regimen for maintaining his health requires him to keep the environment at all times cool. This begins at around 55 degrees, and he eventually has to drop the temperature in his room to a frigid 28 degrees to keep functioning. He uses a primitive refrigeration system involving ammonia pipes, a gasoline-powered pump, sort of to achieve this cooling. Written in 1928, it's sort of, I want to say this is pretty cutting-edge stuff for back then. We certainly didn't have refrigerators in most of our houses yet then. He explains how his philosophy is that even when a human body is failing, if you have a strong will, you can sometimes keep yourself living. And that is sort of his philosophy. But one night, the ammonia-powered pump fails, and Dr. Munoz, that is, asks the narrator to go order him a new piston for the pump, and meanwhile have ice delivered so he can cool himself that way. But his room is warming up overnight, and by the morning, Dr. Munoz is dead. But before he dies, he locks the door, and he managed to get himself to his desk to leave a message to anybody who finds it. The landlady opens the lock. Our narrator goes in. They find a trail of slime from the bathtub where he'd been soaking himself to remain cool all the way to the desk. And on the desk is scribblings on a paper revealing that the doctor had actually died, not become sick. He actually died 18 years before, and that his methods of preserving the flesh had been the only thing to keep him keep him there, aside from his strong will to live. Pretty neat little story, guys. It's about 4 pages long. Excuse me. And story does a lot of really interesting things that seem pretty cutting edge to me. The whole refrigeration thing, I think it sort of straddles the line between traditional methods of keeping bodies preserved, using not just refrigeration. Before that was ice. They used to have the trains bringing soldiers back across the country during the Civil War. That's sort of where the whole mortuary science world was developed. It was actually using formaldehyde and ice to keep bodies presentable for their funerals. But I think this whole thing sort of straddles a line between that and cutting edge science like cryogenics, which are being explored today. I think there's also echoes of Frankenstein's monster going on. Just this idea that you can sort of beat death and create life. Also in this, I like the idea that I didn't really cover it so much in the synopsis, but the doctor seems to be he's so concerned with keeping himself going that he's not just using the science. He's actually using ancient alchemy and mysticism. The idea that your will alone can keep you living, that is sort of in line with some sort of Eastern religions, I would say, but also using chemicals and elixirs and things like that. And he's said to have had a bookshelf containing ancient books, which is a common theme in Lovecraft, of course. Think the Necronomicon. But it's a really cool juxtaposition of these two things, of science and of religion. And then just one last thing. The twist ending revealing the doctor has been dead all of this time reminds me of a number of other H.P. Lovecraft stories that I've read recently, including Pickman's Model and In the Vault, which I reviewed last weekend. So those are my thoughts on H.P. Lovecraft's Cool Air short story. Where does it stand in terms of the 15 to 20 H.P. Lovecraft stories that I've read so far? I would say it's in the top quarter. It's I love a good twist ending. I think it's well written. It's actually better for being a little bit more simple than some of the other stories that he's written, where he gets a little bit overboard with his language. Here he keeps it pretty simple, keeps it pretty linear, and then he springs that surprise ending on you. So I think it's it's in the top 25% of H.P. Lovecraft stories that I've read so far, and I highly recommend it. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Look for at least one other H.P. Lovecraft short story review in the coming week. Maybe tomorrow if I don't go into work. So until next time, see ya.